Hello, my name is Kayla Selinsky, and I am the head of school at Macbeth Academy. Macbeth Academy is an online school for K through 12 students, and we are a nonprofit school. And the goal is for us to kind of talk about stuff. I saw a need, and I saw that a lot of students and parents and teachers had a lot of the same questions, so I wanted to help out. The first question that I got from one of my Macbeth Academy parents was, "How do I motivate my kid?" So we're going to talk about that today. Before we get started, if you like this video, please subscribe, please like and share with your friends and family, and also share your comments and any questions. So we're going to get into it. So whenever I think of motivation, I think of the acronym GRAPES. Yeah, the acronym GRAPES. So GRAPES. So the first thing is get your child's buy-in. What does that mean? Why are you teaching the child? I always ask myself, why, or ask the child, why are you taking this course? And you kind of give them some kind of ownership of the class. You give them ownership over what exactly is going on in the either the semester or the week or the lesson itself. What get their buy-in, and the way that you do that, or the way that I do that in the classroom, is ask them straight out, why are you taking this class? What is the goal for the class, and how can I help you get there? So instead of you talking at the child, it's more family, or not family, but it's more centered around what exactly the kid wants to learn and what their goals are. The next R is to reflect. So reflecting means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. For me in my classes, reflecting means, is this working? And I know that online and online education, there are so many different ways. There's so many tools. There's all this ed tech tools. There's a lot of different websites and resources and Pear Decks and Bitmojis and just like so many things that are thrown at teachers right now. But the nice thing that we can do is to reflect on what exactly is working. So every few months, what I do is I review what I'm doing. Is it working? Are the kids excited about it? And if it's not, I toss it out, because there's so many resources that you don't have to use every single thing. So reflect. So again, my name is Kayla Selinsky, and this is how to motivate your kids in online education. And I am the head of school at Macbeth Academy. So the first one was get the child's buy-in, get them on board with what they're learning, make it student-centered. The second one was reflect. Is what I'm doing working? Is it working for me? Is it working for the child? The next thing is ask for input. I know that there are so many classes in the traditional model where the teacher is teaching and then the student is taking notes. But how many times do we stop and say, are you interested in what you're learning? Are you excited about what you're learning? Do you want to learn this? Do you want to learn something else? Or ask for their input. Do you think that this is working? So there's different ways to do that. You don't have to do that in the middle of the lesson. You could, what we do at Macbeth Academy is we have student ambassadors. So it's really just a focus group to see if the lesson itself or the curriculum is effective. Because with a student-centered approach, the goal is for it all to be working for the child. So asking the input is so important, and it really gets them excited about what they're learning. So G, get the child's buy-in. To it. To R is reflect on what's working, and the third one is asking for input. The next thing is personalize. So in online education, a lot of times we get kind of bogged down as teachers in like the process of, okay, I have to get the Zoom ready and I have to get my lesson plan and make sure that it's working. But a lot of times with online education, we have so much technology that we can personalize using like YouTube videos. We can figure out what exactly the child loves. Every child has a passion for something. Sometimes it's Legos, sometimes it's Broadway musicals, or I have one child that's interested in cosplay. If you can figure out how to personalize the lesson to the child, incorporate their interests, you're going to get the child's buy-in immediately. I had a child that was not excited about reading. I was like, Miss Kayla, I don't like reading and I don't like writing. This is okay. I knew she liked anime. So for some of the lessons, I would say, "Ooh, let's look at some anime, or let's write a story based on this anime character." And I couldn't get her to stop writing. So once you personalize the lesson, or you personalize the homework. It's a really good opportunity to personalize this for homework or that flipped classroom practice, that you're going to really, really get the kid like motivated into actually doing the lesson. So grapes, buy in, reflect, ask for input, personalize. The E, there's always two. For me, it's empower. And I think that there's such a wonderful opportunity for children to be empowered by what they're learning. And what does that mean? So for me, empowerment is not being a passive learner. Empowerment is more of being able to take charge of what you're learning. And that can be part of the buy-in piece. Let's say we're in, because I teach English. So if we're in an English class and the child's like, I'm really interested in like African American literature, like literature by kids or by writers that look like me, or that are about protagonists that look like me. It's really empowering to be able to incorporate that into the lesson. Empowerment can also look like having the child incorporate some kind of choice. So there are a lot of different ways. There's like little tic-tac-toe boards in terms of differentiation. So if you have 10 kids and they're all in different levels within the lesson or within the, skill set, some kids are going to be on the higher end of the spectrum, some are in the middle, and some are going to be like, I don't know what this is. So a tic-tac-toe board allows the child to choose what they're doing within the lesson, and it's empowering because it gives them the choice of what they're going to be doing in the lesson. And that's really easy to incorporate, especially in the online classroom, because we have Zoom and or Teams. You can have the breakout rooms, or you can have like student discussions. So there's just a lot of different opportunities for empowerment. The second E, I think, would be engagement. So how are you letting the child be engaged within the lesson? So what does that look like? Again, student centered. So within my classes and within Macbeth Academy itself, what we do is we focus on, it's called 25-75. So the child is talking or actively learning 75% of the actual lesson. And the teacher in that case is, guiding or asking questions. So a lot of times we have like a whiteboard, the whiteboard feature, and the child, especially like a math class, we do teach the teacher. So the teacher's like, what does this mean? And then the child's like, so, or can you teach me this concept? And then the teacher writes, and the teacher gives them the presentation. And sometimes it depends, because we do a lot of one-to-one. But this works, the teach the teacher works with different groups of children as well. It empowers them because they become the teacher and the teacher is the student. And when these kids, their eyes light up when they get to teach the teacher something that they've learned. It's also a way for the child to think through the logic instead of just rote memorization. So I believe, and then our teachers believe, that if a child knows something, really knows it, then they can teach it. And one way you can differentiate or help, in a bigger classroom, is that a student in the breakout rooms can teach the other student. And that's super empowering too. That's something that a child will, once the class is over, they'll still remember that, and it helps them like remember in a very like meaningful way for the children. So the E for grapes would be empower or engage. And then the S for me is self-assessment. So again, within online education, assessment and grading looks a little bit different. What we're used to is the child submits homework, and then we give them a grade, and it's, A to F. And then the child gets it back, and it's just like, oh man, maybe I'll do better next time. The way that the self-assessment works is you give the child the rubric and how you're actually going to grade, and but with the homework. So this can work for, because all teachers have rubrics. This works for all the different any subject. So it's like, okay, you have an essay, and it's an argumentative essay, and here is how I'm going to grade you. You give that to the child, and it's so wonderful. They grade themselves. They read through it and they look at the rubric and they're like, well, I could do better in this area. Maybe this area isn't so great. And then they, instead of having just one or two times or just one time and they just like rush it before they submit it, this child reviews over and over and over, and then you get a much higher quality of essay or math or whatever you are whatever you're trying to collect, it's because they know what's expected of them. So if the child knows what's expected of them beforehand, they're part of the grading process versus the teacher having all of kind of the power in the grading process. And again, that's empowering. So yeah, so in this, I'm looking down because I'll show you I'm looking down. So I made this thing, right? Oh, you see now, I didn't, when I first practiced, it was backwards, so I took it down, and I even drew little grapes for you. But so I'm looking down at my little notes. So self-assessment is the S for grapes, but also the S, again, I could be two things. So the S for me again is could also be student-centered, right? If you want to have your child be highly motivated in the class, make the class about them. And it seems really simple, but especially as teachers in the online space, and I'll tell you, when I first started, I was so nervous. I didn't know what I was doing, but learned, and you see that light in the child's eyes that once they have ownership of the learning process, then they're very excited and they're motivated and they're engaged. So I'm going to take my little grapes paper. So for online education, for motivation, you can get first, it's grapes. So think of the fruit, grapes. Get the child's buy in, reflect on what's working and what's not working, ask for input from the children. It could be a focus group or it can be like a 10-minute, usually we do like a warm up in the beginning of class. Ask for input and then incorporate their input. And they're like, oh, that was my idea. And they're going to love it. Personalize the lesson. I forgot to tell you, in terms of personalization, there are these things called student interest inventories. You can just Google it and I can add a link to it. And really, it's just like 20 questions about what do you like and what don't you like. And if you have a classroom of 10 to 15 kids and you have that student interest survey or overview, if you can incorporate, and let's see, you have 10 kids and some you're like, oh, they're into coding or they're really into performing arts, and I keep using my English example, but I had some kids that were really into cosplay and anime. So for instead of doing like the traditional like British literature or classical literature, we incorporated a lot of graphic novels, and the children wrote their own graphic novels into for their final assignments. It was really cool. So they got really excited because the class is about them. It's not about me. It's about practicing the skills. So, and it's very exciting. Personalize, empower the child to get their motivation, and also make the classes student centered and have the kids grade themselves. Give them the rubric. So I hope that this was helpful. Thank you so much for joining my very first office hours. Please feel free to like, share, and comment. And that these are all questions that like parents had. So parents, teachers, if you have a question and you want to ask it, definitely feel free to share. And then I will focus on it next week. I think we're going to do engagement, like how to engage children.